Hello, welcome to another LSB Film Podcast with me, your host, Chris with a K. I hope everyone's well. In a world where headlines move faster than facts, and where questioning accepted narratives often comes at a cost, this is a place for open conversation, critical thinking and challenging ideas. Today's guest is Dr. Joe Whittaker, a scientist whose background spans genetics, microbiology, oncology, vaccine research, engineering and technology commercialism. After years working across academia and industry, she began to question the way modern science is funded, published and influenced, leading her down a very different path.
Are you concerned about all this corruption being rebranded as conspiracy theory? Well, don't you worry. Sit back and relax and join in the conversation with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
So, yes, it's lovely to have you, Dr. Joe Whittaker. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. We had a bit of a chat before.
Indeed.
It's going to get a little bit deep for people, but I just want people, before we start, to say we might touch on some subjects that might, we can see some problems, but I'm all about solutions, and we have some incredible solutions, and I've certainly dedicated my time and my expertise and the kind of 3D part of my life to kind of understand them and to bring them to humanity. So I'm going to bring some incredible solutions today if people would like to have a listen and have a go.
Well, I certainly would.
Brilliant. So where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start like the kind of science?
Well, let's for those who don't know you, let's have a little bit about you, who you are. That's probably the best place to start, and then that'll obviously give people your credentials and things.
Yeah, I think that's important. Where do people come from? Although it's not defining as who you are, I think this is very useful in this case. So I was always very interested in science as a child, and my first degree is in genetics and microbiology. My master's degree is in oncology, and my PhD was actually in genetic vaccines. And I was there's two groups here in the country that did the work. And my external examiner was Professor Angus Dalgleish, which people will probably know.
I recognise the name.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But I didn't stay in academia because I saw that there was something going on. There was something wrong with the funding mechanism, the peer review system, and how research was carried out in general. So I saw that the things that were really good ideas didn't seem to get as much money as the ones that were funded by commercial interests, for instance. And I then thought, well, writing a research paper is interesting, right? But until somebody actually proves it, like in the real world, then that research is not going to be able to help humanity at all because it's just a research paper. So I was more interested in getting great inventions and ideas from academics or inventors, like in the private sector or whatever, and turn them into products that really matter and could change the world. And during that process, I worked in many different scientific and engineering disciplines. So I worked broadly across, civil and building engineering, manufacturing engineering, chemical engineering, software, biological sciences. I ended up working in their enterprise, basic commercialization of technology really was the backbone, 3D printing, all sorts. And what I saw in the academic space is that, really to write a research paper and get it peer reviewed and published doesn't mean that it works. Okay, this is the thing that people have to understand. Peer review is not about someone has said, okay, this is true because they've done it. What it means is it has the experiment and been written up in a way that the journal accepts it. And if there's some obvious reasons why it doesn't work, then it gets to and from before it's published. But the most important thing about actually that whole process is Does what's been written get backed up by the science that's always been written? So you end up with central dogmas, as they call it in science, and therefore ideas are only kind of carried out if it's based on a previous idea. And if that previous idea or that previous experiment,
So it ends up being a little bit like Chinese whispers.
it does, you end up with this like loop, like this virtue signaling loop.
Mm.
And we saw this a lot with with virology and certain things that were determined about virology, like this molecule called reverse transcriptase. And at first they said only viruses have it. So if you ever see it in any kind of sputum samples or multiplication samples, then it must have come from a virus. But about 7 years later, that was debunked completely. But then still at universities, and so this is what I was taught. I wasn't taught that experiment. I was taught the first one. So when you get these ideas that are then kind of debunked later by science, it's not necessarily carried through the publication literature and the teaching literature. So everything is there. It's just kind of very skewed.
Mm.
And my job is actually.
I have one question, and it's slightly off topic in a way, but I can hear the pretend people in my ear shouting because I've had these conversations before. What about the people that believe, what is it, terrain theory versus germ theory?
Yeah, so of course I was brought up in the whole kind of virology thing, and after 2020 hit and being an expert in these kinds of injections, I could see the deep fallacy in thinking that they would ever be suitable to cure an external pathogen. They would never, the genetic vaccines are not designed to prevent spread and anything external. So that made me very curious then and confused about the whole world and this whole narrative about masks. I mean, I worked in with culturing cells and things, and none of it was science that they were saying. So then I deep dove into everything. And I can't see clear evidence that viral particles float around in the air. Nobody has ever isolated a viral particle in the air and been able to see it. These are nano-sized particles. You should be able to see them by different type of microscopy techniques. And they can't be found. They can only be found in a mixture of things. So personally, I only believe in things
that you can see,
that I can see, and I don't mean seeing with my eyes, that can be proven.
Yeah.
And like I said just at the beginning about this reverse transcriptase, it's a kind of side effect. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's different types of data, fallacies of data, and you can get a false dichotomy, or you can get a false you can see two effects happening at the same time, and you can think it's one effect, it's actually another. And there's one great one that says, you can see that the increase in kind of wealth of a population is correlated to the decrease in the amount of pirates. But I don't think that that's a false dichotomy. And this is a problem with virology, because they claim that these nanoparticles exist, but they're not alive, but they cannot find them in the air, and they can only find the side effects of them. And they put them in a soup of very many other different reagents, like monkey kidney cells and these fetal bovine serum and all this kind of stuff. So I can't believe in something that cannot be proven. That's the end of the story.
Now, before we get back into our show, a quick word from our sponsors. If you've ever had that unexpected knock at the door from police, a visit from bailiffs, or received a legal threat without warning, you'll know just how quickly confusion and fear can set in. And that's where Willoughby Genius Mark II comes in. Built on more than 750,000 legal entries and across 50 plus countries, it provides immediate legal guidance when you need answers fast. No waiting for appointments, no eye-watering hourly fees. Just direct access to the relevant legal information right when you need it. It helps to verify information, explains your options, guides you through legal situations with clarity and precision. Legal technology is evolving rapidly, and those who understand it will be better equipped. Now, before we jump back into the show, click in the link below. Use LSB Pro for £5 off of your first month's premium. Right, let's get back into it.
Why would I?
Well, that's a very good answer. No, that's good. That's great.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, like, as a scientist and as a person, you can't just believe something because you've believed it for a long time. And I'm a very open-minded person, which is why I'm in the quantum space now. I use my doctorate to try and use it as an idea that just because I've got a PhD in something, it doesn't mean I'm defined by that. And that I'm going to go along with everything in that paradigm. I don't fit into a box. I've got critical thinking. And I hope people that can see that I can speak out at an educated level on these things and an objective level. But unfortunately, with science, it's very much about the money. It's a very tight system. I mean, scientists don't actually get paid very much money, not compared with doctors, by the way. It's a very poorly paid profession. And actually, in academia, people don't actually get a full-time contract that they can even get a mortgage on, right, properly. They get these short
They were
6 months,
0
3 years.
hours.
Yeah, well, they're like short-term contracts, 6 months, 3 months. Will I get the next funding? So their continuation in employment is very much reliant on getting the next funding tranche until there are maybe about 40 odd. So everyone's very motivated. Everyone's got this time sticking. We've got to publish some papers. If you don't publish papers, we don't get funding. If our experiments don't work like we said they were going to, we don't get funding. So the perversion is, you say as a scientist, I'm going to do this research because of my research I've done before. And because of my research that I've done before, I'm going to be able to show A, B, C, D in a deeper way or a more broad way or whatever it is. And if you don't, you're not going to get any more money.
So
So
it's
everyone,
also a case of it keeps them in the fear paradigm, and
oh,
it keeps them in the lower vibration. So it probably makes them not even be able to think outside the box other than what they're being told.
very stressful. And I come across very many postdocs, these highly qualified people, like in their 30s with families who, well, we haven't got another grant, we haven't got any grant funding coming in. And it wasn't because of a bad scientist, it's because the science wasn't going in the direction that was being forced. And even above that, and this happened kind of in the early 2000s. So I saw this flip that really was funding bodies decided what research was going to be carried out, and that the research that were going to be carried out was going to be need-led and need-led by industry. So what that meant was, instead of scientists just researching stuff and seeing what happens and then producing that, and then people creating kind of information and a whole new fields as a result of it, industry said, we want you to prove this because we think it's important. These funding bodies, which is a handful of people, told the whole of the UK, and this is happening in all other countries, okay, this is what we think is like global warming's real, or this, that, and the other. And your job is to prove this. So give me some funding ideas that would prove these paradigms. And so everyone's research really was about kind of proving the narrative. And it's very, very few people that control, therefore, and it's very corporation led about what research actually carries out. And that is not science. Things stopped becoming scientific, and the science community, like in academia, stopped becoming scientific. I would say, I mean, it was always a little bit there, right? But definitely the end of the 90s, early 2000s, that
So
flip
that
happened.
kind of ties in quite nicely with Tony Blair, the Fabian Society, and wanting to turn the Western world into communist
Yeah,
countries, basically. And this is one way of doing it, more control.
yeah. So then people are in this industry, the whole, oh, well done, you're a doctor, I've given you respect, etc. You're in this bubble, everyone is thinking the same way, even industry think that academia is ivory towers, have this ivory tower way of thinking. They then have these students, and the students pay for an education, so everyone has to pass and everyone has to toe the line. And if you don't, you lose your job, you lose your credibility, you lose your identity, if that's become your identity.
And all the
Uh,
money it's cost you to get you to that point.
Exactly. So
Mm.
it's very hard to get out. Now, I wasn't in academia at that point, and I spent my whole career investigating the researchers. And what I found is a lot of fraud,
Mhm.
deliberate, is a lot of accidental rubbish research. Um, but it's there because of this pressure and this money and this financial pressure. These institutions are, the whole system is now very contrived. It's not science.
Mm.
So it's a shame that a lot of money goes towards this. I feel very sorry for students. And I say to my children at 17 and 19, he says, if you want to go to university, you go, it's your ticket to ticket to the game. But please don't believe what you've been told
But
because
first, move to Scotland so you don't have to pay for it.
that's a good point. That's a good point. But even if you do get your bit of paper, and my parents always taught me this actually, and I think it's really great. They had very, very humble beginnings. It's your ticket to the game. It doesn't mean
Mm.
it has to be your identity. And it's exactly what it is. But unfortunately, many people that have gone through that process feel that they have been educated, whereas I would say largely people have been
Indoctrinated.
indoctrinated, miseducated, deliberately miseducated, or accidental. It doesn't really make any difference, but they've lost the skills. And in biology, there's a lot of now, and I could see this happening like in the early 2000s where
Can I
you have
ask you, sorry, I
sorry,
was just going to say, can I ask you, since you've been doing this, what's the one thing that's probably shocked you the most?
oh,
Because there's a lot out there
oh, of all the things then that I've
that you've
researched.
discovered that you thought, you know,
I'm shocked kind of on a daily, well, at least I was shocked on a daily basis
yeah,
after 2020. I
mm,
started deep diving because I knew, because I'm a subject matter expert, that what they were saying. So then what I did is I then researched, well, hang on, if that stuff isn't based in science or reality, what else? So I spent a lot of time researching. So I had a full-time job at that time. I didn't go into furlough or anything. And I was researching sort of 7, 8 hours a night, and it was very, like I say, shocking, depressing time.
mm,
And I don't think on the people level, it is deliberate. It's a trap that has been set, and once people are in, they're trapped in this cage, and they probably possibly have to give up their livelihoods and their house, and their wife doesn't want to do it, or their husband doesn't want to do it, their kids don't want to do it. But in
mm,
terms of shock, I would say it is because the fundamental lack of understanding of the quantum nature of our reality, a lack of understanding of what magnetism is as one of the forces, because all of that is missing, then all physical sciences are a crude approximation to what is going on. And when you're trying to build a building and be an architect, that kind of 3D physics, it's fine. But when you're trying to create immunological drugs or chemotherapy agents and trying to understand the human body from a physical point of view, it's completely the wrong
mm,
approach. And so when I discovered, really the worst thing that I discovered was how toxic our tap water is, but from a 3D perspective, because it's only got a trace amount of arsenic, a trace amount of nitrates and nitrites. It's okay because chemistry tells you, well, you need a certain amount before you get a toxic effect. They're not looking at the cumulative effect.
mm.
They're not looking at the fact that all these toxins are like working together, like chlorine
The
and
pineal
fluoride
gland
together.
currently looks like a
Yeah,
piece of chalk.
they're just like, oh, what's a pineal gland? Oh, it just produces melatonin and vitamin D. It's like, it's not important. You ask your average doctor what a pineal gland is, and he's like,
Also
oh, I've heard of
produces
that.
DMT.
Yeah, DMT as well. It produces like five really critical hormones that are there for your detoxing, and it, and
Mm.
it flips your morning, like you wake up and you've got serotonin, and at night time it's supposed to go dark, and it isn't. But everyone's in silos. You've got cell
Mm.
biologists, and then you've got molecular biologists, and you like kind of do
So
all the
it's kind of
machinery.
compartmentalized, isn't it? You
Compartment.
you know that bit, so you've got no idea about that bit,
Yeah.
and it just goes on.
And you have to become a polymath to understand what's going on. And you never stop learning. It's like it's such a deep. but rabbit hole. But when you start piecing things together and think about things from a quantum level, and I explain what that is as well, if you'd like me to, because well, this word quantum is really bandied around, and I try and provide an explanation so that you can explain it to your grandma or your grandson. And the way that I explain it is, if you imagine if you just imagine that like a quantum is like a package of information. Okay, when people talk about energy, it's like a packet of
Like a
information,
zip file.
like a zip file, right?
Mm.
And it's the fundamental things that it's made of. It's like the blueprint that everything's made from. And the best way to think about this, if you've ever seen one of those photos where when you zoom out, it looks like a picture of Elvis Presley. But when you zoom in, you realize it's made up of lots of different photos all arranged. Do you know what I mean? Like one of those
Mm.
mosaic images.
It's almost a bit like hologram.
It's like a bit like a hologram. It's like, what is a hologram? It's like, you can say, well, it's a sticker with some lights on it. It's like, you kind of looking in. And if you understand that actually, and I say to people when we do our live talks, I say, look at these images, what is it? And I'll do the one which is zoomed out, and they'll tell me it's Tom Cruise I've got a picture of. And when I zoom in, it's lots of pictures of random blokes' faces. And one person says,
Mm.
oh, it's Tom Cruise, and then the other person says it's random blokes' faces. And I said, but it's both, isn't it? It just depends on your perspective. And the 3D sciences are looking
Mm.
out here. But really, it's made up of pixels and this bloke's face. And if I want to change what Tom Cruise looks like on the zoomed out point of view, I can't do it from here. I have to rearrange those pixels or those images to see
Mm.
what it is. And that's what we mean when we're talking about quantum and that 3D, all the sciences or the mainstream sciences or physical. And then quantum mainstream science is all about particles, physical. They completely ignore the 99.9999% of what's in an atom, just oh, it's just quantum space, or whatever it is. And they go, well, there's an atom, and then there's a photon. Oh, no, not a photon, sorry, like a, like a, I can't even remember all the language, right? Because I'm just so over it. Like a neutron and a proton and all this kind of stuff. And then maybe they're made up of quarks. And there's just these ridiculous names. And they have failed to understand that all of the reason why they've come up with these conclusions is it's a byproduct of the 3D physical equipment they've used to measure it. It's literally a byproduct of how they've chosen to observe it. And this is our eyes, right? The way we view things is not the same as, say, a camera. They both view things
Mm.
because they don't work the same. And they fail to understand this. They're making up even more ridiculous names for things when actually understanding things as a quantum field of waves and as a primary, source of information, and that creates the pattern within which physical matter then is manifest to us. But nothing is physical. At least we agree that in the physical world, that even if you think something's solid, they say these
It's
particles are
just
bouncing around and
vibration,
there's
yeah.
gaps. Yeah, they've got that far, but and they'll never find, they'll never find what they're searching for using their mindsets that they've got. And to be a scientist, you cannot be stuck in your bubble.
Trying to fix something, or I always screw this up, and I can never remember who said it, but trying to change something using the same consciousness that got you in that situation is stupid, basically. But I can't
Yeah.
remember who said it or how it actually
Yeah,
goes.
didn't they kind of attribute as well that to Einstein and said if you keep doing the same things over and over
Over and over
again
again and
and
expecting
expect a
different,
different
yeah.
result, well, this is what scientists do, and I've been in the lab and I can tell you this, that they're using these kits and these data and they do the science, it didn't work. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's forget about all the Wi-Fi we've installed in the lab. Let's forget about all the mobile phone technology that's there. Let's forget about the fact that water itself is a programmable, it's a dielectric material. Let's forget about, Victor Schauberger's work, Walter Russell's work. Let's forget about, Dr. Emoto. Let's forget
Mm.
about all that. And it's just particles. And so heat makes it vibrate more, cold makes it vibrate less. It's like, so the world of science is full of nouns, and each kind of explanation is just gives you another noun. So I saw some I think they're called noctilucent clouds the other night. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, way before the sun was risen. It was in the north, and there was this plasma, and it was blue, and the clouds were blue. And I put this and says, how come? It's like it was like the sun was rising. It was that bright. Now I've seen plasma energy, especially since I detoxed my pineal glands. I can see more of the electromagnetic spectrum of light. I'd encourage people to do this because you can see what's going on around you much more clearly. And
Perhaps
so
we'll have to do a separate video on how you do that.
yeah, so I'd love to. I'd
Yeah,
love to.
okay.
And someone says, "Oh, but it's called noctilucent clouds, I think they're called." And I said, "Well, that's just another noun. You've just said, oh, what? Not how? How is that happening?" And they said, "Well, but they've been around for a long time." So I did some research. It's been around since 1885, like after the Industrial Revolution. So I'm like, so in all of humanity, in all of these tablets, nobody's mentioned it, but it kind of popped up 100 years ago. And because it's got a noun, it's now, oh, it's okay. It's got a noun now. And that's what science does. Oh, here's a noun. Here's a name we've made up. It's like, that's not science, love.
No.
How? So I'm trying to bridge the gap between science and spirituality, which is really science and quantum science. And I don't mean the particular kind of quantum science. And getting people to experience things, because the things that we prove on stage and the way our technology works, and also what we'll talk about in a little minute, it cannot be proven by science because their methodology, they're under all the stacked maths, all the things, can't do it.
Mm.
So according to them, it can't exist. Whereas when you experience it and you can see it, this is what I started to do. And well, look, when something's repeatably observable and independently measurable, that is real.
Yeah, that's real science. No, absolutely. Well, it sounds really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what some of these solutions are because it's about time. And I think we're at the time, that point in our waking up period where people know what the problems are and they want the solutions. So I think that is a good time to let's see what you got.
Okay, this is a perfect intro into that. Well, the first thing I want to give to people, and I don't know how well this is going to go down on YouTube because it's only just been released. Let me tell you a little story. One of the things, and I'm going to be very careful about my language. Let's see how this goes. We'll see, won't we? In my quantum journey and quantum understanding, things are either in coherence or they're incoherent. And things are in harmony or they're not in harmony. And with your music background, maybe this is a great thing that you can chip in. So people talk about
Resonance.
resonance, mate. And I keep saying everything is about resonance, everybody. That's really the bottom line. People talk about frequency, but that's a bit simplistic. So I could start singing a song and in within my harmonics, it sounds fine. You could sing exactly the same song and it's all in harmony with you, but we are out of tune with each other.
Mm.
Because I've chose a different pitch to start off with, which we can then discuss, the whole 432, 440 hertz.
Mm.
And listening to the two together would just sound like cats fighting. But in my space, everything is in harmony and in tune, and in yours is. Now, the biggest tuning fork we have here is the Earth. And people talk about the Schumann resonance, but there's a whole range of frequencies and harmonics and it's a whole orchestra, and all of nature is built on those harmonics. And when we are in tune with that, everything flows very easily. Our bodies doesn't have to work very hard to be out of tune. When you are working with technologies or substances, particularly those that come from oil, I've noticed that pretty much everything coming from oil has the wrong harmonic architecture. It's all tuned, it's an orchestra, it mistuned. And whether you're talking about, agriculture, plastic things, polyester clothes, pharmaceuticals, they're all based on this
Mm.
frequency harmonic, which comes from this substance that comes from the ground. And I can do a whole talk on this substance, but we're not going to go into that because that's also a very deep kind of rabbit hole. Um, so people are starting to see this, and this is what I first of all noticed. I was like, I saw these terrible things happening. I started to research, and I was like, how do you detox the body? You detox the body by putting natural elements into your body that haven't been messed around with, frequencies that are in harmony with you, which resonate with you. You come from the earth. You're literally born of this earth. We are fractals of the earth. All living organic things are fractals of this earth. So when you're tuned into that massive tuning fork of the earth, which isn't one frequency, it's many, this is where you become in resonance. But when you disconnect from the earth, you become then can be a victim of your environment. And if that frequency environment is not harmonic, your body has to work very hard to stay in balance. And we have been disconnected from the earth, from the things that we eat, the things that we put in our bodies,
The things we
that
watch, listen to.
listen to, watch, listen to, thoughts, beliefs, and our feet have been disconnected from the earth with all these, we used to have leather soles. That's a natural material. It's got a natural harmonic. And now it isn't. Right? And even you can see some tribes who don't wear shoes at all, but their feet grow what we would consider probably pretty
Callousy.
ridiculous. Yeah, they become very thick
Yeah.
pads, like an animal's pad. So it's not very attractive from our point of view, right? From a
That's
Western culture.
because we're fickle.
That's because we're figure we've been taught about what feet should look like and everything, right? So therefore, and then we can start talking about veganism and things like that. But if you could create, if you could then create something to put on your shoe that had the right harmonics, for instance, hemp rather than oil, because hemp is a natural, it's a natural plant with natural harmonics. Oil isn't. Then you can then start getting back into harmony and things like this. New clothes could be made of like natural things.
Hemp's amazing.
Oh my gosh, hemp is
You can do
incredible, but
so much with hemp.
it's so vilified, isn't it?
Great
It's
for
like
fishing as well.
great fish. I remember
Mm.
had a canal at the bottom of my garden, and I used to fish in it, and we used to use hemp to catch carp, not in the canal because there wasn't very many there. Yeah, it's incredible because of the frequency of it, and that's what they're attracted to. Right? So the more that you mechanize something, the more that you mess around with it, the more that you add things that aren't natural, the more that frequency, it might be an organic thing, but then if you messed around with it, it becomes disharmonious. There's people in that orchestra singing out of tune, and it's hard for your body to
Yeah.
hear. So I realized that actually detoxing was about connecting back to natural earth elements. And there can be very many things. And by the way, if anybody wants to know, on our website, which I'll show you in a minute, I've got a free detox guide for people to download and go through. And really, the main thing about the detoxing is avoiding things that are not in harmony with you. Synthetic fragrances, not in harmony with you. Essential oils taken from a plant, organic, are in harmony with you. So you can have nice smells. And by the way, once you start to detox, you start really hating perfume and synthetic smells and, all these kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah. There's one perfume, and I don't know if it's a bloke's perfume. I don't know if it's a woman's perfume. I'm assuming it's a bloke's, and it literally just smells like pure alcohol.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't understand how that. It just smells like it's just come out of a brewery. I don't really.
probably. But people who like it are in that frequency because they're consuming a lot of those frequencies, which is why people are, oh, I like it. I can tell a lot about a person by where they are in kind of their detox journey as to what they smell like and what they are attracted to smells wise. And because, like you say, resonance, what someone says they resonate with, oh, I resonate with this food, I resonate with this, it's because, yeah, you're full of it. That's what your resonance now is, but that isn't your original resonance. And it's whether you like it or not, over time, that's where you're going to get disease, where you're going to get these resonant frequencies of yours. And eventually your body's just going to go, this is flipping hard work, mate. Just to get up in the morning and just go, just to exist
Mm.
is a
And
hard
and
job.
I believed where, and again with like religion and spirituality and the crossover, I believe that's why people pray before they eat, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's to raise the vibration of the food they're about to put in them.
to make it coherent with them.
Mm.
And our voices are
So
very
you can
powerful,
eat your chocolate, just say thanks God first. Only
right?
joking.
Just well, well, yeah, you know what? You're probably absolutely right. And we've seen, especially with the kind of rollout, and you've got this one side, and we spoke about this a little bit before. It is very important to raise awareness of these things. But for those people that are regularly taking the Kool-Aid, and I mean drinking the Matrix
Mm.
water and the Matrix food or whatever, you're not helping them by frightening them and making them disbelieve that everything is fine. Because the power of the mind and the power of that we have is incredibly important. We need to develop much more compassionate and coherent ways of talking with people, because for them to suddenly go be scared to death that everything that they've ever done and are doing is going to make them sick, it will make them sick. You need to show them how to improve where they are at.
Mm.
That's a
And
nice,
I've,
coherent,
I've,
supportive way.
yeah, I mean, I've often said on many podcasts that that's something that I kind of wrestle with myself because obviously what I talk about on the channel isn't people, bottom line, are obsessed with fear. They click on something that scares them over a nice, happy. So, like for this podcast, for example, it's a positive, upbeat, nice podcast. So, if I do the title and the thumbnail as all nice and fluffy, the
Right.
views will probably go. If I do something like, you better check this out if you want to live,
Yeah.
or something like that, then it'd be
Click, click, click. Because
so.
everyone is in fear, which is their resonance. So they're attracted to fear
Mm,
porn. And
yeah,
it's very much in the truther community. And I've always been an advocate for, hey, we don't need to do that. But that isn't what gets the likes and shares. What seems, and the algorithms also don't like it. They don't like, they really suppress, they suppress things that isn't in their narrative. So, it's the stuff they like externalizing our power, thinking that someone's going to save you, whether it's a religion, a
MP,
cult or whatever it is, thinking that something outside of you and outside of this earth is going to help you. I mean, that gets heavily
mm,
pushed.
where you're
Uh,
giving your consent, where you're giving authority.
it was something else. And people do not yet understand their power. And maybe actually we could do a little bit of an experiment live here. And I want to show people something. Have you got a penny with you? This is a great experiment to do. And I think I've done it on a podcast yet.
A penny,
A penny.
oh, probably.
Like
Hang on, bear with.
this is really important. Everyone, this is your cue to go and get yourself a penny.
Okay. A few minutes later, I'm back.
Yeah, you just do it, and then we'll see. Because and we haven't practiced this, obviously. So what I want you to do with that penny, it's a copper penny, and the amount of copper that's in it has been reduced over time. And copper is very important ally to water, and you're pretty much water. And go to our website and find more information about this. But what I want you to do is I want you to try and put that penny here,
I'm
like
quite
where your penny will
sweaty, so
go.
it probably will.
It might stick, but I want you to just try it just for a minute.
I just look like a bindi now. I've got bindi.
It's not like a video there. And some people that won't stick. Like if it's a bit dirty, take the penny off, right? Because how is that sticking, right? And you'll see. I'm going to make you more magnetic in a minute because people know that we're electric. Probably quite a lot of you have had some kind of electric shock. You've seen how muscles work and the brain works. And you know it's electricity, and there's lots of evidence for that. But when I say you're an electromagnetic being and you're also magnetic, people then get a bit. I say, do you know that? Some people say, yeah. I said,
Just
but do you
have
really
you had the
know it?
jab?
Yeah, but there's more than one type of magnetism. There's paramagnetism, electromagnetism, and ferromagnetism. A lot of people, if they know about magnetism, know about perhaps ferro and electro.
Is that the
But you just
smell?
put, pardon,
The Pharaoh one, is
how
that the
ferro's like it's like the iron. People know the iron,
okay.
iron type of things. So so I can make you more magnetic now if you just get your fingers and start tapping here.
You
And
just
while
want to
you're
make me
doing
look
that, I know it's
stupid,
very
don't
much
you?
you don't feel much stupid.
This is like
But everybody
tapping.
try this at home. How many people are going to get to do this?
Yeah, come on,
Right.
join in. Don't make me look a
Yeah, come on,
dumb.
everybody. All right, I'll do it. And we found this out because Kelly, the co-founder of Crystal Water Experience with me, was tapping her head one day. She had a bobby pin in her hand, And she was trying to get her brain to work because it was like, come on, think. But obviously, this is intuition. And then the bobby pin flew out of her hand and landed on her head. So you try and put
So
that
you want
coin,
me?
put it back. Yeah. So stop tapping. How does that feel?
Ah,
Oh, no, you're just
and I've unplugged the things as well.
yeah. And when you feel it here, it's a stronger pull. Now I want you to try and put it on other parts of your body. Did you feel like kind of suck off then? Like
Yeah, but like I
try
said, I am rather clammy, so I
it.
don't
So
know.
oh, I've just not my
I've
mic.
got about 3 fans on me, but I'm still.
Oh yeah. I've just like taken it off. This is like really weird. I've just my microphone has fallen
This
off
is
the
turning
magnet.
into an OnlyFans thing now, but
Right. So for people to try it at home, and really what's happened is um you've become more magnetic, right? So
so what
when you
does the tapping do then? How does that?
mm, it is priming your the magnetic system in your body. Now, have you ever heard of like EFT tapping?
That's what I
Heard
was
about
saying. It's a
that?
bit like tapping where you can.
Yes. Now, when you try and understand this, so your magnetic strip on the back of your credit card holds your information. Yeah, your hard drive. The way that the data is put on, and also the tape, the old tapes and the old
Mm-hmm.
tape recorders, the way that they're put on and the information is encoded is through magnetism. So magnetism programs things, right? So that's how you know your credit card. If you've left it too close to a bigger magnet, it wipes the data. So when you understand that you are magnetic and your thoughts are magnetic and your nervous system is magnetic, and you understand that you are programming your reality around you because water is dielectric and therefore slightly paramagnetic, you are programming the waters around you. And you start to realize that a lot of our language is to do with water. And we hear this thing like we program our reality. So your thoughts, and this is what we were talking about before, your thoughts are programming the waters in your body. And people think, oh no, whatever it is, 70% water. Well, that's by weight or volume. When you think about how much hydrogen and oxygen your body feels your body contains, you're pretty much hydrogen, some oxygen, bit of carbon, bit of nitrogen, and the other stuff. You're mainly hydrogen and oxygen. So when you realize that water is programmable and you look at things like Victor Schauberger's, well, probably Victor Schauberger's work is a nice thing, but Dr. Emoto's work, have you
Mm-hmm.
seen any of that?
The crystallization of the water when they
Yeah,
freeze it with the
through
nice
fluid
words versus the
thought.
nasty.
That's right. So,
Mm.
I mean, I can even show a picture now if you'd like to
You do whatever you like.
do that. Let me just find one. And again, I'm not asking people to believe me. I'm just saying
And this is why it's also important to drink things like water with
Celtic salt. Yeah.
Celtic salt or lemon juice, like fresh
Yeah,
lemon juice, because of the electrolytes.
the electrolytes and the charge, because
Mm.
then the water becomes coherent. And we talk all about this in our level 1 course. And so if anyone wants to ever catch that, but this guy, if you haven't heard of him, Dr. Emoto, and he had a crystallization version. And he said these words to water and then he crystallized them and then they produced these coherent shapes. Now, he used the word wisdom and got this coherent pattern. Now, the guy was Japanese, right? He didn't say wisdom. He said something in Japanese, but it wasn't the words, the specific words he's using. And actually, it's
It's the
language.
frequency.
It is, yeah, it was the information he was programming into water because we have a very special relationship with water. And then you've got this word fall, and this is what I'm talking about, incoherence. So you've got something that is not aligned to you. And the best way to think about this is instead of it, you put in a drop and a beautiful pattern being created, you've got a mishmash of things because you've
Mm.
got all sorts of frequencies all bouncing around from each other, and it doesn't create a coherent shape. And evil and polluted water, and then polluted water after prayer, which is what you've said. And then you've got Vader Austin's work, which I'm not sure it's going to go into the next one because I think I'm on the wrong screen.
The bad ones start to look more like a cancerous cell, don't they?
That's right. And then if you got Vader Austin's work, showed that she's got like a photograph underneath some water, and she's got a different method, and it's really good. People should have a look at this. And the water then captured the image after she froze the water. Now, the water isn't like trying to be a copycat. It's showing you that there are fields within this photograph that are not just a physical, I can see an image. There are quantum fields, like what is the photograph made of? And that the water is responding to that. And when you freeze it, you can see it. And there are millions of people worldwide that have done these kind of experiments. And I go into this kind of deep, because we call ourselves crystal water experience, and people go, oh, crystals are just, like woo-woo. And I get completely away from the woo-woo because I start talking about, the structure of water, the structure of silicon dioxide, and how they talk to each other. And crystals hold information, and water information is held, but it flows unless you crystallize it by freezing it or by putting salt in it. So we go into the kind of how this all works. And then, like in our website products, what we've been able to create is, when you understand that, we've got a whole range of different products where we have put the resonant frequencies of Earth encoded by hydrogen and oxygen, bear with me, everybody, which is the fundamental things that we're made of and the Earth is made of. Fundamentally, that's the main kind of waves there. And we've embedded them into matter. Like, we've got some stones here, we've got some orgonite blocks, we've got some carbon stickers. So, and what they create is a standing wave, which is equivalent to when you go and sit in the earth. And when you're in the earth, you're in a standing wave. You're in that wave pattern that's always there. We figured out how to bring that into products so that people then become coherent all of the time. And on stage, I'm going to be very careful about what we can claim on our website is watered down, because the ASA, Advertising Standards Agency, are crawling up our bottoms for this, right? But so this is why we've got our level 1 course where we prove to people how to measure this. And we do things like seed growing experiments, seed germination experiments. We use kinesiology. We teach people dowsing. These are all skills I feel people need to have to be able to explore the quantum world. You can't explore the quantum world with an EMF reader. That's a physical, two-dimensionally understanding frequency device. You can't explore it with a microscope. You can explore it through the effects of it. And I think everyone should have a look at, dowsing and what it is and what it does, and start to look at and if we want to understand the quantum nature of our reality, our level 1 course explains this in more detail, so people know I didn't just leave like a very well-paid career in 3D science, to come here just to sell people a load of woo-woo nonsense. I'm here to bring quantum understanding because it's very important for us, so we can see through what they're doing, the layers. They just tell us the physical layers. We have to unpick all of that stuff. And even to the point, I mean, have you heard anything about life force energy? Have you broached that?
Yeah.
So there's, there's
other people call it Kundalini.
Yeah, well, Kundalini is almost like I would say it's a slightly different thing. But Kirlian photography, a guy called, his last name was Kirlian. I'm just kind of forgot. Sebastian Semyon Kirlian, that's his name. Sorry about that. It's like, I feel so, when you misremember somebody's name, especially when they've done this important work. He discovered that you can photograph. I'm trying to find the image of it now. Here's a nice. Just 2 seconds. You can photograph life force energy. And when I first of all detoxed my pineal gland, I started seeing this white and blue light around people, around things, around living things. And I was like, what is that I can see? But when I then found Semyon Kirlian's work, he explains this because he had a camera that can photograph it. And I was like, that's what I can see with my eyes, right? And we've been able to, I've got the image now. Sorry, that took so long. We've been able to, through resonance, we've been able to capture an image of me when we've got one of our pieces of technology on. we've got a picture of me. Let me just share this, glowing the same as the photographic technique that he uses. And this is purely through resonance. And we've created a product called a Terra Crista. We do all these kind of freezing experiments where we get our community involved. So if anyone wants to subscribe and see the stuff we do in our community. But this image, so that's the picture. You can see I'm just kind of walking around normally. But literally I'm glowing like these photographs. I can see that light around things since I detoxed my pineal gland.
So we're just
But it's
looking at
not,
kind of like the blue misty thing around
yes,
them.
but it's not around this chap. And it's because, can you see, right? It's because I am wearing something called that we call like a Terra Crista, which has got earth elements and this quantum frequency technology that we have in it to amplify and resonate with the frequencies that are in me. And so you can see. And so this is what I want people to start seeing is like it's stuff that you have to experience. And I've seen a lot of like so-called life enhancing and boosting things, but I've never seen anybody being able to do that before. And so we've created our course because we want to share with people how this stuff works and they can start realizing that we don't need to wait for med beds.
Mm. I
We
would have
already
liked,
have it
I'd like to see that same experiment done in a black top.
in a black tie. Well, you can. I'm encouraging you to go and do
Mm.
it. But black as well will absorb the light. So there will be
Mm.
light coming, but the black will bring it in. So you won't see it because of that. The reason why the white top work is because it reflects. But when you see the full image, there are 4 other people on the same place without the device on. They're also wearing white. They don't glow.
Okay, so that'd be good to see.
Yeah, so I've only got this little one on here
Awesome.
just to kind of fit it in. But you're right, and these are the kind of questions people need to ask. And this is where you can't find this kind of stuff in the work that we do. You won't find it in books.
Mm.
Like we said before, it's like when we're not in the kind of science kind of space for it. But when people can start like get into that idea, I want to show you something else that's a possibility. Um, so what's happening now in our skies is incoherent frequencies that we might call as HARP, and chemicals that are not coherent with us are not supposed to be there,
Mm.
basically. They're not natural, they're being put there by man. They are changing the energetic balance of the place. And if we can use the same kind of idea and principle by putting things into resonance and coherence. So we're all on the same page, we're all going the same way. It's not like a bumper car track and you've got, the lad going the wrong way around the track and disrupting everything. We're all going the same way, we're all in resonance. Then we can change the effects of what's being done to us. And this is when I met this Swiss Italian team who have developed a mobile phone app and is using the electromagnetic frequencies of the phone at a particular frequency to change the coherence of what's happening in the sky. So even if something is incoherent, if you put a coherent frequency using your device, which is a very powerful device, you can make that coherent. And so earlier this year, I'm careful about the language I'm using, everybody. I could use very inflammatory language and we can go on Substack and thing, but I want this to reach as many people as possible. And I want you to try for yourself. And I don't really mind if you believe me or not, because you probably shouldn't believe anyone at this point, right? You need to know. We're all about knowing.
Mm.
So I brought together about 60, 70 people across the UK to beta test this since, I think it's like April. And the results were astounding. I mean, we've done meditations to make the sky coherent, but it's hard work. And people
You
have to
should
be very
send me
conscious.
something so I can do a video
Yes, shall I do
experiment.
that?
I think you should, because then I can say yay or nay.
Brilliant. Okay. I'm going to send this. I'm going to show you what it is now. You log on to this website, which is called coherentsky.org/coherent dash or hyphen sky. So coherentsky.org/coherent hyphen sky. and you go through this process. Now, you have to put your email address because obviously, if you just have an open platform, it gets hijacked. And by the way, this is on very safe servers. This is like, oh, sugar, I don't think I'm showing this out, am I? Sorry. This is at a very safe server because this is dangerous stuff we're sharing, right? Because changing our environment back to what it should be is dangerous stuff. And I realise the risk that I'm taking sharing it. But there's many of us now sharing this, which is great. So you have to ask for a holotag so we know who is interfering. And then literally you take a 360-degree photo, load it up, press start, and it'll run for 3 hours. And what you start to see, my experience of what you start to see, I'm not going to make any claims for this. I'm going to tell you what I've seen so we can avoid the YouTube police. I saw like these big buffering white clouds coming out of aeroplanes. I'm right by East Midlands Airport, so I get a lot. And I saw them start to break up and become wispy and disappear. And then I saw the next day many more of these. And there was layers of this stuff. And I didn't necessarily clear it all at once because it went through layer and layer. And the idea would be is if we got many people to do this, so 2 people doing it in the same location doesn't work because you just get kind of one signal sent to that area. So you need one person, you need another person like half a mile down the road. But the area that this was clearing was from a horizon to horizon. And I've never seen anything like that. And I've looked at chembusters and many other different technologies.
Does this work only on manufactured clouds, or does this work on natural clouds as well?
No, it doesn't clear the natural clouds.
That's what I was hoping you would say.
No, because we do need clouds. And of
Oh.
course, this is a bit deeper, right? There's technology in the ocean and things like that. So, rain is being, well, let's say this is for entertainment purposes only. Perhaps there is an idea that maybe rain could be being dumped in the ocean before it even gets here, where it's supposed to be evaporated into clouds. So that's another level that needs to be worked out. But in the meantime, what you start to see is things like thunderstorms. You start to see proper forming curly clouds. So it's not going to like if you got a wedding, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to make it sunshine to you. Have a nice day. It's going to make your area coherent. And what I have experienced is that my garden has gone ballistic in terms of growth. I can hardly keep on top of it. My olive tree, which just produces a few little poxy pinhead olives, has now got 10, 20 times as many berries on. The birds sing when it turns on. There's more bees and insects. This is my experience. I'm not making claims for this thing. And this is something that people need to try for themselves. So I've done the job of the last 4 years, looking into all sorts of chembuster and all sorts of technologies. And what I found is all chembusters need to be grounded. If you've just got something in a plastic resin pot and put it on your patio, it's going to work for the first month or 2, and then it's not going to work. You need to ground it. Why? Because it needs to be coherent with the Earth's frequencies. And the Earth's magnetic field is strong, but it's also got a layer of stuff over it. So it needs to go deep in the ground. It needs to go a meter in the ground, guys. That's what grounding is. And not into concrete, right? It's got to go into the Earth, the natural Earth. But also that some people would have exactly the same one. I bought mine and mine doesn't work because it's working with human consciousness. What we were talking about, this sticking to your head. You need to program it. Now, not everybody is at the level where they believe in this stuff, so it won't work, right? This is all about what you know, right? Do you resonate with this or not? The great thing about this app is, I don't really care what your consciousness level is. You can detox your peel nail gun tomorrow. It's okay. Just run the app and see what you see. And there's a lot more, and the proof of this is what you can see. If there's somebody in your area doing it, you're not going to find many clouds. And now we've got to work on the other things that this technology is doing out at sea, other places. Okay. But what is going to be happening is the Earth's frequencies changing, the weather systems are changing, and it will become hotter. Now, I'm not going to talk about, what's the word? Hang on. you know,
George Soros's little
George
side
Soros' little
project.
thing. Yeah. It's just very, it's at a time that George Soros's little thing is timed very nicely when the Earth was already going to naturally do this. And living
Essentially, we're
it,
coming out of a natural ice age.
yes, and
And we're not out of a natural ice age until all the ice is gone.
yeah, probably so. And what you don't need to be living in is plastic containers that have got all this synthetic insulation. We need to be in buildings that can breathe. And of course, the total opposite is true. So I'm sure there's going to be a big push then for, you know, probably air conditioning. And someone's going to make a big book out of that. Let's put them in. We know what's going to happen. Let's put them in Tupperware boxes, which grow mold in the winter, get very hot in the summer, and then sell them air conditioning, right?
Mm.
It's good. It's good. It's good business. When you know how this is going to all pan out,
Do
you
you
can put.
think that they're doing anything to the sun? Like a lot of people say, they remember the sun being yellow, but now it's more of a white. Do you, is there
The,
anything in that from your point of view?
the sun has natural. So the first question was, are they doing anything to the sun? No.
They
Uh,
being those having enslaved you.
yes, and however high we want to go up on the chain of that, right? And not necessarily, we're not talking about the 13 families. Let's think a bit
Mm,
higher than that. But so yes, they are, but not necessarily why the sun is changing. The sun is changing because we live
natural.
in a dynamic environment in which the sun, the stars, the moon, the earth are in natural cycles. And if you know how to influence the natural cycles through technology, and technology has been here for, guys, this is not the first rodeo, right? This has been going on, I would say, for millions of years, right?
Yeah.
This is not
We're
new,
just
not thousands.
we're just several resets later.
But just several research later, and
Mm,
like when people look, even like Sumerian times, it's like that. There's still relatively recent history. There's a whole load of stuff, and this is a whole different podcast, right? But you don't need to worry about that. We can go into that, and we can spend this entire lifetime looking at all the other civilizations and what's gone on, right? We can
mm,
spend our time doing that, or we can go. Our children, our families, and us deserve to live in a healthy, coherent environment. It is very clear to us that those people who want to make money out of us don't. So, what can we do to help ourselves? And that's why I created the detox guide. We have to help ourselves. And the more that you help yourself, the more you can stick your two fingers up at the system. Because I don't think that the other methods work, because we then discover our true power. And like I said, we've had these meditation groups with people really high on it, and we've been able to change the UK weather for like 3 days from that. Not everyone's at that stage
but it's
yet.
your fault we've got the heat wave, isn't it?
This one's fun. But this, well, you see, there's more than that going on here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? There's more than that. But we can do our bit, which is making our areas coherent. And guys, we are going to experience more of this heat. But we have to, this is the first step of something that's real. What I
Mm,
don't want to see is planes not on the radar. They used to be not on the radar with when I can get binoculars and it's not coming out the engine. I don't want to see that. So all I can do, and then see, okay, it might be whatever it's doing, but what I don't want to see is that. I want to see that stuff then sprinkle onto the earth, because that's going to have a detrimental effect. So even if, forget about the weather and all the deep conversations about that, if we can make whatever that is coherent when it lands on the earth, it's not going to be a problem.
mm,
So this is the thing about our technology that we've proven, and we proved live on stage. These devices in our hands are not coherent. There's a huge lithium battery that is completely the opposite polarity to what we are, and it really disrupts our magnetic field, right? And these ground you, you be part of the Earth's huge magnetic field. But this is for entertainment purposes if you listen to ASA, right? This is Joe's theory. Okay, let's just say that, shall we? And you find that when we do these demonstrations live on stage, that people strengthen their muscles return. That people respond going, I feel calmer, I feel this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, because you're grounded. So we know that we've also got these charging plates on food and things like this. When we remove the distortion fields, the incoherent frequencies, and put everything in coherence. It's still got the same 3D toxins. And my chemistry professor would like be cross with me, but we live in a quantum reality, Prof. You can carry on in your 3D lands. So, but I'm just keen for people to have an open mind and to try these things and not believe me. And by the way, this technology, when you go into there, if you also look at coherent farming, they've got a test bed and they've been testing growing of plants. And we know electroculture works, but it's quite intensive and there's quite a lot of stuff you need to do with the Earth's microbiome. But they've got coherent water, when you informed water. And when you put it on crops to grow them, so you haven't used any electroculture, you haven't increased the biome or anything of the natural bacteria, because it's the natural bacteria that produce the frequencies, right? So can you do it without having the biome? And the answer is yes. We need the biome. That's very important, just like we need it in our gut. But in the meantime, we can get plants to grow. And actually, and I don't know how much I can say in here, but certain types of plant growers, one of our best-selling products is our land core. Certain types of plant growers that perhaps can't get access to the earth and might have to put it in situations where they have to put it in false lighting and things like this. When they use one of our land core coherent blocks and put it in one of their systems, because the water transports it, they see a reduction in pests, they see an increase in growth, they see any water that comes into contact with it when they're doing seed germination goes from, say, 75% to 99%. So hopefully I said that in a way that people can kind of go. But, you know, whatever you're growing, right? You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't grow basil plants for toffee.
My
But when
apple
I'm
tree's doing really well this year. But the trouble is they always get eaten by the bloody birds.
yeah, this is the thing. That's it when you start working with nature. So I wanted to give people this hope about this thing and getting people to think in a different way, that on a chemistry level and a physical level, that's where they're at. But when we transcend that and understand how we work, our bodies work, and what we are capable of, and the technology we're capable of, then this world, we don't have to worry about anything. But ultimately, I believe in 5 or 10 years, we won't need any of this app or anything. We humans can do this. It's just we don't believe it, right? And we have to know it. And the more we start to see what is possible, the more we can shift our mindset into, shit, maybe I am creating all of the issues in the world collectively with my negative thinking. The answer is yes. They're feeding you this fear, so you're creating it. And I know you don't want to hear that, everyone, but it's exactly
I've
what's
said that
happening.
loads of times. And again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, where I'm constantly wrestling with myself, because the more you focus on the shit, the more the shit's likely to come your way.
It's all resonance, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, listen, thank you very much. I'm going to have to wrap it up because I've got another podcast in about half an hour, and this has
Yeah,
got to
apologies.
render.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed listening to what you have to say. I shall leave the links to your website in the video description so people can go and check you out on their own. And I hope everyone watching this has enjoyed it, learnt from it, and hopefully ready to take some action. But until next time, look after yourselves. Bye for now.